I wasn't supposed to be home that day. My flight from Chicago had been booked for late evening, after a conference meeting that ended up being canceled the night before. The airline had plenty of seats on the early morning flight back, so I figured, why not? I didn't call or text Madison. Honestly, I was looking forward to surprising her. It's the kind of thing we used to enjoy. Me showing up early, her wrapping her arms around me like she hadn't seen me in years. I guess a part of me was hoping we still had those moments left. The rideshare dropped me off just before noon. It was a quiet, windless day, overcast, the kind of gray that hangs in the air and makes everything feel slower. When I stepped inside the house, it hit me immediately. Something felt off. Not wrong exactly, just off. Too still, like I had walked onto a movie set before the actors arrived. The dog didn't come running like he usually did. No tail wagging, no excited scratches at the floor. I assumed he was out with Madison on one of her lunchtime walks. The house itself was tidy, almost too tidy. Shoes lined up perfectly. No dishes in the sink. No music playing. Just silence. I set my bag down quietly and started upstairs, intending to drop my jacket off in the bedroom and maybe surprise her with lunch if she was around. As I reached the second floor, I heard something faint coming from behind our closed bedroom door. Muffled voices, followed by a burst of low laughter. I paused, trying to listen. It wasn't a TV. The sound didn't have that distance or echo you get from background noise. This was sharper. Mate. Real time. Like someone speaking into a mic. I stepped closer. The door was slightly ajar. Through the narrow gap, I saw Madison sitting cross-legged on the carpet in front of her laptop. She had her hair thrown up in that casual bun she wore when she didn't expect to be seen. Her face was lit by the blue light of the screen, and she was smiling in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. She looked relaxed, flushed. She was wearing a loose gray t-shirt I didn't recognize. It looked worn in, soft. Definitely not something I owned. Not even close to my size. A man's voice came through the speakers again, this time clearer. "Don't tease me, you know I'm right," he said, laughing. Then he appeared on the screen just for a second. He leaned into the camera, smiling at her. That kind of smile you don't give someone casually. It was the kind of smile that knows things. Madison laughed, tucked her hair behind her ear, and glanced up. That's when she saw me. She didn't flinch. No guilt. No scramble to minimize a window or cover anything up. She didn't even look surprised. Instead, she let out an audible sigh. Annoyed, like I had interrupted something important. "Oh my God," she said, reaching forward and slamming the laptop shut. "What are you doing here?" Her tone wasn't playful, not even curious, just sharp. I blinked, still frozen in place. "The meeting got canceled. I flew back early. I thought I'd surprise you." She stood up, crossing her arms over her chest, her expression tightening like I'd broken some unspoken rule. "You could have texted. I wasn't expecting you." "I live here," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "Why would I need to text before coming home?" She scoffed and walked past me toward the hallway. "It's just weird. You don't usually come back like this." I followed her slowly, not quite sure what to make of what I had seen, or what I was supposed to believe. "Who was that?" I asked, gesturing back toward the bedroom. She spun around, already on the defensive. "Seriously? You're already interrogating me?" It was a question. "No, it was an accusation," she snapped. "You just walked into the house without telling me, caught part of a private call, and now you're acting like I've done something wrong?" I blinked, confused. "Private? We share that room. You were on video with someone. That didn't look like a work meeting." Madison rolled her eyes and shook her head, as if the whole situation was too exhausting to deal with. "You know what? This is exactly what I mean. You always do this. You assume the worst. You act like I need to explain everything I do, or everyone I talk to." She wasn't raising her voice, but she didn't have to. Her words were controlled, clipped, and sharp enough to cut through any logic I thought I had on my side. "That guy," I said slowly. "He didn't look like a colleague. Who is he?" She laughed. Actually laughed, and turned to walk toward the kitchen. "You're being ridiculous. It's none of your business who I talk to when you're not even supposed to be here." There it was. She didn't deny knowing him. She didn't clarify the situation. Instead, she went straight to framing me as the one who had crossed a line. My early arrival had suddenly become the issue. Not the strange man on the video call, or the unfamiliar shirt she was wearing, or the way she shut everything down the second she saw me. "I didn't know this house had office hours," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Did the rules change while I was gone?" "Don't be dramatic," she muttered, opening the fridge. "You're the one making this into something it's not. It was a video call. That's it." I stood in the doorway, hands in my pockets, watching her move like nothing had happened. My heart was still pounding, my head spinning, and all I could think about was the way she looked at him, soft, warm, familiar. A look I hadn't seen directed at me in months. If it was nothing, why shut it so fast? Madison slammed the fridge door and turned around, her voice louder now. "Because I knew exactly how you'd react. Just like this. Suspicious. Controlling. Like I'm not allowed to have my own space." Controlling. That word landed hard. I wasn't angry, not yet. I was hurt, confused, trying to find my footing in a conversation that had turned sideways the second I walked in. But now I was being painted as the possessive husband, the one who couldn't handle his wife having private moments or talking to friends. Never mind that her entire demeanor shifted when she saw me. Never mind the shirt. Never mind the man whose face vanished just as quickly as it appeared. I knew what I saw. I knew what I felt. But suddenly I was the one apologizing. "I'm not trying to control you," I said quietly. "But this feels off." "You looked int asterisk mate with him." Her eyes narrowed. "So now I can't laugh on a video call? Are you serious?" "That's not what I said." "It's what you meant." She asterisk T back. "You're trying to twist this into something shady because you don't trust me. That's not on me. That's on you." And just like that, I was the villain. The atmosphere shifted from awkward to hostile. There was no room for concern, no space for curiosity. She had turned the spotlight on me, and I felt it burning through every inch of doubt in my chest. It wasn't just what she said. It was how easily she said it, how quickly she flipped the script. No hesitation, no self-reflection, just blame, redirect, repeat. In less than 10 minutes, the roles were reversed. I was now the suspicious one, the insecure one, the one who didn't understand boundaries or trust or privacy. And she was the victim, the misunderstood wife whose space had been invaded. I left the room not because I believed her, but because I didn't know how to fight that kind of logic. How do you argue with someone who's already decided the facts don't matter? As I walked down the hallway, I realized something I hadn't wanted to admit for a long time. This wasn't new. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was a pattern I hadn't seen clearly until now. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. After that day, something shifted in me. Not in a dramatic, world-ending kind of way, but subtly, like the slow turn of a dial. I didn't say anything to Madison after our blowout in the kitchen. I didn't bring up the man on the screen again. I didn't ask about the shirt. And she, for her part, acted like the conversation never happened. As if that whole moment, her being caught off guard, her blaming me, her deflection, had dissolved into thin air. But I couldn't let it go. Not this time. It wasn't just what I saw. It was how she reacted. That irritation, that swift pivot from being caught to being offended, it wasn't unfamiliar. It was rehearsed, a reflex, and the more I sat with that realization, the more my mind started retracing old conversations, long-forgotten red flags, things I had brushed aside because I wanted to believe we were fine. And once I started looking back, I couldn't stop. It was like finding threads in an old sweater. Once you tug on one, everything else starts unraveling. The first thing that came to mind was the co-working phase. She'd started spending more evenings at this shared office space across town. At first, I thought it was great. She said working from home was draining her, that she needed a change of environment, some new energy. I encouraged it, even helped her pick out the membership plan. But then the schedule started shifting. Instead of working normal hours, she was suddenly leaving after dinner, 7:30, 8 p.m., and staying out until nearly midnight. "I just get in the zone at night," she told me. "There are fewer people around. It's quieter." That made sense, until I offered to pick her up one evening when I was nearby for a work event. I texted her, said I'd swing by on my way home. 10 minutes later, she called, her voice tight. "Actually, I just left," she said. "I'm already halfway home." I paused. "Really? I'm literally down the block." She got defensive fast. "Why are you checking up on me? Do you not trust me or something?" I backed off, told her it wasn't like that. And I believed her, or at least I tried to, because that's what you do when you love someone. You give them the benefit of the doubt, even when your gut is screaming at you not to. Looking back, I should have listened to that voice. Then there were the walks. At some point, Madison got into this routine of going on clearing my head walks late at night. Not short walks either, sometimes she'd be gone for over an hour. I remember asking her once if she wanted me to come with her. She waved me off with a laugh. "No offense, babe, but you walk like a dad at a mall." She started doing them more often after we had disagreements. Not big fights, just little things. Tension. Passive silence. I'd think we were cooling off, but then she'd disappear. AirPods in, hoodie on, out the door without a word. I stopped offering to join. Eventually, I stopped asking where she was going at all. One night, after she got back from one of those walks, I noticed she'd changed her phone background. It used to be a picture of us. Something candid from a road trip up the coast a few years ago. I remember the exact photo. She had taken it with her phone, then immediately set it as her wallpaper, saying, "I want to see this every time I open my screen." Now, the new image was a generic city skyline. Dark blue buildings under a gray sky. A little artsy, cold, impersonal. New background. I asked casually, not expecting much. She shrugged. Felt like something different. That photo was old anyway. I nodded. Let it go. But that was the first time I felt a coldness I couldn't explain. Around that same time, she started locking her tablet. That sounds dumb when I say it out loud. I mean, people lock their devices, it's normal. But this was different. She'd never cared about that stuff before. We used to joke about how we knew each other's pins, how we could swap phones without thinking. But suddenly, her tablet, something she used casually in the kitchen, on the couch, in bed, had a password I didn't know. And she guarded it. If I so much as glanced at it while it was open, she'd angle the screen away. If I asked what she was working on, she'd give me vague answers. Just stuff. Emails. A to-do list I'm organizing. Then she'd change the subject. The phone habits changed too. She started placing it face down, even when it wasn't buzzing. That small, constant act, always screen down, started to eat at me. She said it was because of screen glare. "I hate how the light keeps flashing when I'm trying to focus," she told me. But she never did it before. Even the way she carried herself changed. She started wearing perfume again. Something subtle, something I didn't recognize. A scent I wasn't familiar with. She started wearing makeup again, too, but only when she was leaving the house alone. Not when we went out together. Not even for date nights. She used to ask me, "Do I look okay?" before we left the house. Now, she'd already be out the door before I even realized she'd gotten ready. I remember standing in the hallway one evening, watching her walk out in jeans and boots. Her lips painted a dark shade she hadn't worn in years. She looked beautiful, stunning even, but not for me. That much was obvious. "Where are you going?" I asked. "Meeting a friend for drinks," she said, grabbing her keys. "Which friend?" She hesitated. "Just someone from the co-working space. You don't know them." Then she smiled, kissed me on the cheek like she was clocking in for a shift, and left. The affection disappeared, too. Not suddenly, but gradually, like sand slipping through a sieve. She stopped reaching for my hand when we walked side by side. Stopped resting her head on my shoulder during movies. Her touches became transactional. Routine hugs, a quick goodbye peck, distant and automatic. I remember lying next to her in bed one night, maybe a week after the video call incident, and realizing we hadn't had a real conversation in days. Not just casual chatter, but something meaningful. Something that felt like connection. She was scrolling through her phone, earbuds in, completely checked out. I turned toward her. "Hey," I said quietly. She didn't look up. I feel like we don't talk anymore." That got her attention. She pulled one earbud out and looked at me like I just said something accusatory. "What do you mean? We talk all the time." "No, I mean really talk. Like we used to." She sighed. "We're just busy. You've been traveling a lot. I've got a lot on my plate. It's not that deep." I wanted to push to say something more, but the way she looked at me, tired, annoyed, I let it drop, rolled over, faced the wall, pretended I was okay. But I wasn't. That night, I lay awake replaying every small moment that had been stacking up in my head. The password changes, the makeup, the mysterious walks, the laughter I wasn't part of. I wanted to believe it was stress, that maybe we were both just burnt out and out of sync. But I knew better. You can only ignore so many warning signs before they stop being warnings and start becoming evidence. The truth didn't come crashing down on me like a car accident. It didn't knock the air out of my lungs in a dramatic explosion. It arrived quietly, subtly, almost like it had been waiting in the shadows for me to finally stop pretending. And when it showed itself, it didn't scream. It whispered, "Look, there it is." It happened on a Thursday. Madison was out again. Another late co-working night. I had stopped asking for details. Stopped checking the time when she left or when she got back. I'd grown numb to it. Or maybe I'd just gotten good at lying to myself. Pretending I believed her. Pretending everything was fine. That night I was in the guest room, my unofficial bedroom for the past 2 weeks. I'd moved in there after one of our arguments faded into the usual mutual silence. She hadn't asked me to move back. I hadn't offered. We were still technically together. But in reality, we were ghosts passing each other in the same house. Couldn't sleep. I remember that clearly. I was staring at the ceiling, phone in hand, cycling through news articles I wasn't reading, tweets I wasn't absorbing, just trying to distract myself from the sense of dread that had been building for days. That's when I noticed the blinking notification on the corner of her tablet, left on the armchair in the guest room. That alone was strange. Madison was meticulous about her devices. Her tablet was usually in her bag or hidden in a drawer. But tonight, for whatever reason, it was just there. I told myself not to look. I really did. I stared at it, told myself it wasn't worth it, that I'd only hurt myself by snooping, that I didn't want to become that guy, the one who spies, who crosses boundaries, even if I had every reason to. But then I remembered the shirt, the man on the screen, the city skyline lock screen, the perfume she didn't wear for me, the countless nights she'd left without explanation, the locked tablet itself, like it was guarding something sacred. And now, for the first time, she had left it behind. The notification was small, a quiet alert from a cloud backup service, one I recognized. It was the kind of thing that synced videos automatically across devices when Wi-Fi was available. I hadn't even known she had it turned on. The title caught my eye. It wasn't labeled anything dramatic, just a generic file name. But I tapped it anyway because something in my gut told me to. The screen brightened, the video began, and just like that, my world tilted. It was footage from a hotel room. The camera angle was slightly skewed, like it had been propped against something. The room itself was nondescript. Tan walls, white sheets, impersonal artwork on the wall. The kind of place people go to be anonymous. Not romantic. Not cozy. Functional. Madison was in the frame. She wasn't looking at the camera. She was moving around the room casually, talking to someone off-screen. Her hair was down, her expression calm, even playful. She was wearing that gray t-shirt, the one I had seen her in during the video call. The one she claimed I was overreacting about. A few seconds later, the man stepped into view. I recognized him instantly. Same face from the video call. Same body language, comfortable, familiar, like this wasn't their first time. or their second, or even their fifth. They laughed together, sat on the bed, talked quietly, nothing graphic, nothing explicit, but the way they moved, the way they looked at each other, it told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't a one-night lapse. This was practiced. Int asterisk mate. And then, almost poetically, the video ended. No drama. No big reveal. Just a cut to black. But the damage was done. I sat there frozen, the tablet still warm in my hands. My heartbeat was so loud it drowned out the silence in the room. My mind couldn't process what I had just seen, not fully. It was like my body registered it before my brain could. I felt sick. Hollow. Exposed. I hadn't expected proof. Not like that. I think some part of me believed I'd go digging and find nothing. That I'd be able to tell myself, see, you're just being paranoid. That even if things were strained between us, she'd never actually do it. But now I knew. Now there was no question. She had. And not just once. Not just some spur-of-the-moment mistake. This was something else. Something deeper. Something sustained. Rehearsed. Safe. He was her safe place now. That video proved it. I wanted to scream. Throw something. Smash the tablet. Demand answers. Drive to wherever she was and drag the truth out of her face to face. But I didn't. I just sat there, breathing. In and out. My hands trembling. My mouth dry. I watched the video again. I don't know why. Maybe I needed to make sure it was real. Maybe I thought I'd catch something new the second time around. A mistake. A detail. Something that made it all less devastating. But no. It was exactly what it looked like. She was cheating. That night I didn't sleep. I left the tablet where I found it, powered off and untouched. I didn't confront her when she got home, even though every part of me wanted to. I heard the front door click just after 1 a.m. Heard her take her shoes off, walk around the kitchen for a few minutes, then come up the stairs. She paused outside the guest room. I heard her breathe. Then the sound of her walking away. I stared at the wall and didn't move. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. "Hey," she said casually, buttering toast in the kitchen. "How'd you sleep?" I didn't answer. She glanced at me, eyebrows raised. "Okay." "Silent treatment?" I sipped my coffee. "Just tired." She nodded. Didn't press. And just like that, we went back to pretending. But I was different now. Something in me had gone quiet. Still. Like the engine had stopped running. There was no fire. No fight. Just this cold awareness that the person sitting across from me had made a choice. 1,000 small choices, really. To lie. To hide. To create a parallel life where I didn't exist. I started noticing other things after that. I don't know if they were new or if I had just become hyper-aware. Like how she'd flinch ever so slightly when I brushed her shoulder in passing. Or how she'd leave her phone behind when she went to the bathroom, but only if I was looking. As if to say, see, nothing to hide. The performance of transparency, not the reality of it. Or the way she spoke to me in general, like she was reading off a script. Emotionally neutral. Never too warm or too cold. Like she was managing a situation instead of being in a marriage. And worst of all, the way she avoided my eyes. That was the hardest part. You don't realize how much eye contact matters until it disappears. When someone won't look at you, they're telling you everything they're afraid to say out loud. I knew she was waiting for me to blow up, to accuse her, to bring the hammer down so she could flip the script again like she did that first time. Blame me, paint me as the overbearing husband, reframe herself as the victim. But I didn't give her the scene she was bracing for. Because I didn't need to. I had seen what I needed to see. She didn't love me. Maybe she had once. But not now. And that knowledge hurt more than the cheating itself. The realization that I was no longer someone she turned to, but someone she turned away from. It didn't happen overnight. It was slow, quiet, like water eroding a cliffside over time. And by the time I realized it, most of me had already washed away. What remained was a man sitting in his guest room, holding a video he never asked to see, trying to remember when his marriage stopped being a marriage. And wondering how long his wife had been gone, even while she was still standing in front of him. After seeing the video, something inside me turned off. Not in an explosive way. Not like I shut down in anger or collapsed under the weight of betrayal. It was quieter than that. Still, I didn't cry. I didn't confront. I didn't yell. I just stopped. Stopped believing in us. Stopped fighting for something that clearly didn't want to be fought for. Stopped lying to myself that it was stress, or distance, or timing. The truth was sitting right there, in full clarity, and I realized I didn't need to chase any more explanations. I already had the answers, and once you have the truth, there's a strange freedom that comes with it. So I disengaged. Not in a way that Madison would immediately notice. I didn't storm out or change the locks or pack a suitcase and leave her a note. I just started pulling away, inch by inch, quietly, intentionally, like someone folding a map they no longer need. The first thing I did was move out of the guest room officially. Not with some grand announcement. I just made it permanent. Set up my own alarm clock. My own drawer of clothes. Put my phone charger on the nightstand. Bought a new set of sheets, nothing fancy. Just something that didn't smell like us. She never asked about it. If she noticed, she didn't say. Next, I separated our finances. We had a joint account for bills and shared expenses, but our personal spending had always come from individual accounts. I made sure all my direct deposits were rerouted to mine. Canceled any auto payments for things she used. Stopped transferring extra money into the joint account. Again, no conversation. Just action. She didn't bring it up. Maybe she thought it was temporary, just me needing space. That I was sulking, pouting, emotionally licking my wounds in silence. Maybe she assumed I was just waiting for her to say the right thing so I could feel justified in forgiving her. But that wasn't what this was. This wasn't about punishment or posturing. This was about letting go without telling her I was letting go. I started trimming away the routines we used to share. Little things. Things most couples don't even think about. Those invisible threads that bind two lives together. I stopped making coffee for 2 in the mornings. Stopped waiting to watch shows together. I unsubscribed from the meal kit service we used to cook from every Sunday. When she asked why the box didn't show up, I said I figured we weren't doing that anymore. She just nodded. I started doing my laundry separately, setting my own grocery list, leaving the house without explaining where I was going, coming back when I wanted, living like a roommate, not a husband. There was no anger behind it. Just a quiet sort of autonomy, a life reorganizing itself in real time, without her in it. Emotionally, I had already walked out. My body was just slow to catch up. And strangely, Madison didn't protest. She didn't try to stop me, didn't ask if something was wrong. Maybe she thought this was just a phase. Me going through a spiral that would eventually bottom out. Maybe she believed I would circle back around and try to win her back like some desperate husband clinging to a version of his wife that no longer existed. Or maybe she didn't care. It's hard to tell when someone becomes unreadable. And Madison had become exactly that. Flat, distant, emotionally static. The rare times we spoke beyond, "Do we need more milk?" Or, "I'll be home late," were mechanical, rehearsed. She wore politeness like armor. Her tone was always careful, controlled. It was like living with a publicist who didn't want to comment on rumors. And I didn't push. I had stopped trying to make her feel guilty, stopped searching for remorse. If she felt it, she hid it well. If she didn't, then I guess that was my answer. Either way, I was done investigating. I wasn't a detective. I was a man quietly rebuilding the edges of his own life. I even started reclaiming space in the house. Not because I needed it, but because it felt like I was drawing boundaries she no longer got to cross. The office? That became mine. I moved my books in, took down the photos of us smiling on beaches and in airports and replaced them with landscapes and clean lines. I didn't throw the photos out, I just moved them to a drawer, out of sight. The living room? I rearranged it, shifted the couch, got rid of the old rug she picked out. I started lighting candles at night. Something she always said was too extra. Played music from playlists I hadn't listened to in years. I started making the house feel like mine. She noticed that one. "Wow," she said one evening, walking in and seeing the new setup. Feels different in here. I looked up from my laptop. Yeah, it does. She waited, like she was expecting more. I gave her nothing. Eventually, she walked away. She still came and went as she pleased. Still had co-working nights, though they became less frequent after I stopped asking about them. I think once she realized I wasn't monitoring her anymore, the thrill started to fade. Like the secrecy only had power when it was at risk of being discovered. Now, I didn't care where she went. She could have stayed out all night. Could have brought him home and made pancakes in the kitchen for all I cared. I was past that. I wasn't holding on to anger. I was past betrayal. What I felt now was detachment. And in some strange way, that scared her more than if I'd screamed. I remember a specific morning, midweek, unremarkable. She was pouring cereal into a bowl, and I was packing a lunch for work. We were moving in parallel silence, doing our own tasks like synchronized strangers. Then she spoke. Do you still want to go to that wedding next month? I looked up. What wedding? My cousin's. The one in Denver. You RSVP'd yes a few months ago. I shrugged. You can tell them I won't be coming. She frowned. Are you sure? Positive. She lingered for a second, like she was waiting for me to offer a reason. I didn't. Later that day, I went into our online calendar and deleted all the shared events. Doctor's appointments, social functions, family dinners, gone. If I was going to be alone in this relationship, then I was going to do it without pretending we were still connected by logistics. I started spending more time outside the house. Not to escape her, but to stretch. To remind myself there was still a world out there that didn't orbit around Madison and whatever story she was writing behind my back. I reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years. Went to dinners, poker nights, sat at bars just to feel the hum of other lives happening around me. I didn't tell them what was going on. Not yet. I just existed among them, quietly, slowly remembering what it felt like to be myself without a second shadow. Sometimes I'd get home late and see Madison already asleep on the couch, curled under a blanket, the TV playing a show I didn't recognize. I'd walk past her without waking her. No urge to join her. No guilt for staying away. And maybe that's when it really sunk in. I didn't miss her. Not who she had become. Not who she had revealed herself to be. The version of Madison I had loved. The one who used to grab my hand during movies or laugh uncontrollably at nothing or whisper, I love you. At the most random times, that person was gone. Maybe she'd been gone for longer than I realized. And all this time, I had been mourning a version of her that hadn't existed in months. Maybe even years. So I stopped mourning. Stopped waiting for some grand apology or breakdown or moment of truth. There would be no confessions. No redemption arc. No cinematic reconciliation. There would just be me, reclaiming my time, my space, my identity. And her? She hadn't realized it yet. But she had already lost me. By the time spring crept in, Madison seemed to notice that something had shifted for good. Not because I said anything, because I didn't. I kept my distance. I kept my silence. But even silence has a weight. And mine had become something she couldn't ignore anymore. It started with small gestures at first. Casual attempts to pull me back in. One afternoon, she made dinner. Not just throwing together leftovers or ordering takeout like she'd been doing the past few months, but actually cooking. The kind of cooking she hadn't done since the early years of our marriage. Rosemary chicken, glazed carrots, fresh bread warming in the oven. I walked into the kitchen and paused, confused by the smell of garlic and herbs hanging in the air. She was wearing an apron, hair pulled back, music playing from a speaker we hadn't used in ages. She glanced over her shoulder and smiled. Thought I'd make something nice for a change. I nodded. Smells good. We sat at the table that night and ate mostly in silence, like coworkers sharing a break room meal. She asked how work was. I answered. She mentioned something about a new project she was involved in. I nodded. She waited for more. I didn't give it. After dinner, she lingered. You okay? She asked as I rinsed my plate in the sink. Yeah. You've just been quiet lately. I dried my hands and met her eyes. Not much to say. She looked away. Okay. That was it. No fight. No follow-up. But I could see the way her brows pulled together. The confusion. The discomfort. The growing awareness that the dynamics between us had changed in a way she hadn't expected and couldn't control. Madison had always been someone who needed to feel the emotional temperature of a room. She liked knowing where people stood, how they felt, what roles they were playing. And for most of our relationship, I had given her that transparency, predictability, presence. Now, she was standing in a fog, and it unnerved her. Over the next few days, the gestures increased. She texted me more often, sent me links to things we used to laugh at. A dog wearing sunglasses, a throwback meme, a clip from a movie we saw on our second anniversary. I replied with a simple emoji, a thumbs up, sometimes nothing at all. One night, she came into the guest room and stood by the door. "Do you want to sleep in our bed tonight?" she asked, voice careful, like she was testing the water with her toe. I didn't look up from my book. "I'm good here." She hesitated, then walked away. By the end of the week, I could feel her frustration growing, like static under her skin. She didn't understand this version of me. The version that didn't chase, didn't react, didn't ask for clarity or make demands. And I think that scared her more than if I'd exploded. Because this version wasn't playing the game. So she changed tactics. A few days later, we attended a city-sponsored art event together. Technically, it was her invitation, but we had RSVP'd months earlier, back when our life still had some kind of joint rhythm. She reminded me about it 2 days beforehand. "Still want to go to that gallery thing?" she asked from the hallway. I hesitated, thought about saying no, but something in me said go. "Sure," I replied. She looked surprised. "Okay, cool." She dressed up that night. Not in an obvious, over-the-top way, but she looked good. Intentional. The same way she used to dress for early dates, when everything was still new and soft and full of potential. In the car, she played a playlist we used to listen to on road trips. I said nothing. At the venue, the crowd was thick with well-dressed people, gallery lights catching on wine glasses and silk. We walked side by side, but not together. There was distance between us, just enough that it couldn't be mistaken for int asterisk Macy. I noticed her scanning the room more than once, eyes darting, searching, and then I saw him, the same man from the video call, the one from the hotel. He was standing near a sculpture installation, holding a drink, talking to someone I didn't recognize. When Madison spotted him, she didn't hesitate. She walked straight over. No hesitation, no shame, just a casual, effortless glide into his orbit. She leaned in, laughed lightly, touched his arm. She looked over her shoulder once, twice. That's when I understood. She wasn't just catching up with an old friend. This was a performance. For me, it was a test. She wanted to see if I'd react, if I'd interrupt, if I'd pull her aside, demand an explanation, pick a fight right there under the glass ceiling. She wanted proof that I still cared, that I was still watching, that she still held power over me. I stood on the opposite side of the room and watched her try to trigger something. Anything. And I gave her nothing. No anger. No jealousy. No show. I didn't approach. Didn't glare. Didn't stalk off. I simply turned and walked toward another exhibit. Pretended she wasn't there. I think that was the moment it clicked for her. Later, as I stood near a sculpture of twisted metal and stone, sipping a drink I wasn't really tasting, I felt a presence beside me. "You like this piece?" Madison asked too casually. "It's fine," I said. She studied me for a long second. "You just walked off. You looked busy." Her lips parted, a hint of irritation flickering. "You didn't say anything. Didn't feel like talking." Her jaw tightened. "Are you seriously just going to act like that didn't happen?" I looked at her then, really looked. "I'm not acting like anything," I said. "I'm just done pretending I care about things that don't matter anymore." She blinked. I saw something crack in her expression. It was faint, but it was there. A glitch in the performance. A moment where she didn't know what role to play. "I thought we were trying," she said quietly. I raised an eyebrow. "Trying what, exactly?" "To fix things." "Are we?" She didn't answer, just stared at me, as if hoping I'd give her a script to follow. "I'm not angry, Madison," I said. "But I'm also not stupid. You can't undo something by pretending it never happened. Especially not by using him to provoke me." "I wasn't. You were," I said flatly. She looked down at her shoes. I didn't know what else to do. That was the first honest thing she'd said in a long time. The ride home was silent. When we got inside, she went straight to the bedroom and closed the door without a word. I stood in the hallway for a moment, letting the quiet settle around me. Her test had failed. Not because I beat her at her own game, but because I refused to play. And that, I think, was the beginning of her lesson. The moment she realized that I wasn't waiting for her to come clean or come back. I wasn't trying to win anymore, because I had already left. After the gallery night, something shifted in her. Not in words, but in how she moved around me, cautious, uncertain. She felt it too. The distance wasn't temporary. It was structural now, permanent. I had stopped reacting, stopped hoping, stopped giving her anything to push against. My silence, once an act of restraint, had become a wall. She used to expect my questions, my hurt, my need for closure. Now I gave her none of it, and that unnerved her. Our shared life began to feel like borrowed space. Her jokes fell flat. Her glances lingered too long. She tried to re-enter my world, but the locks had changed. Friends who were once ours became mine. She was still living here, but she no longer felt at home in me. That realization arrived slowly for her. For me, it had already settled. The end wasn't a fight. It was a quiet conversation in a sunlit kitchen. She asked if we could start over. I told her I wasn't angry, just done. Her voice shook. Mine didn't. She wanted to explain, but there was nothing left to say. She looked for emotion in my face and found stillness instead. No tears, no accusations, just the truth she had delayed confronting. I had been grieving her long before she realized I was gone. She tried to offer pieces of herself like peace offerings, but they came too late. There was no explosion, no door slammed, only a final nod, and silence. That's how it ended, not with drama, but with distance. A closed door, and this time it stayed shut.